In the article Remain Calm and Respond Right When a Student Challenges by Rick Dahlgreen, President and CEO of Center for Teacher Effectiveness Diffusers for Teachers, he discusses the importance of how a teacher should respond to misbehavior in the classroom and how prevention is a key ingredient to classroom management. For example, as long as you have better strategies and you're acting on those strategies and being consistent, the misbehavior is less likely to occur. It is inevitable and it will happen, but if you practice those correct management skills and strategies, it is less likely to. But when it does happen, it's important that there is mutual respect between the teacher and student, as well as making sure that you're holding that offending student accountable for what they've done, while not taking it out of proportion and interrupting that learning environment for other students. And a quote that he uses and emphasizes by underlining in his article is, "Conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional." So in the classroom, if a student misbehaves, it's important not to act out in anger or in an emotional outburst, because the students will act out worse and combat will be likely to occur, and it'll just end up interrupting the entire classroom, and you won't be able to teach as effectively as you would otherwise. So ways that he discusses to challenge this misbehavior while keeping a positive classroom environment is first by maintaining self-control. So if you lose your self-control and act out in that anger, as I discussed earlier, it's unprofessional and it causes students to lose that respect for you. You have less control over them, and they have found that way to set you off, and they will continue to do so in the future. So it is important to be sure that you're remaining calm in those situations. And another way is habitual practice. So to keep this self-control, you need to practice it. So when students do misbehave or act out, take this as a learning experience. Use this to grow from and to continue to get better in order to correct those students in a more positive way. So for example, like in my past experiences in labs, I've had trouble discussing with those students who do misbehave, and I get scared or afraid of how they may act out in the classroom, and I won't have that right response. But in reading this, I have learned to look at those situations as learning opportunities, because if they happen in labs, I have someone there with me, and this will help me in the future becoming a teacher to where I can have better control over that situation in my own classroom. So another thing is remaining calm. So take a deep breath. Don't respond immediately. So when you do this, you're giving yourself to clear your mind, and you're making the student think that maybe you're thinking of a punishment. So it works out like both ways mutually. It can help the student from getting in more trouble while giving you that time you need to just breathe and feel more confident about the situation. The next thing that he talks about is waiting. So you should wait calmly and silently, but as you're waiting, you should create the image that you're thinking or you're in deep thought. Like a positive body language helps the students feel like you're in control and you're not going to let them step over you. One thing that it discusses is students with the teacher's calm demeanor, they thought that they were thinking up a huge consequence. So you may not even be thinking that, but just remaining in that silent period makes the students think that you could possibly think of that consequence for them. So it helps everyone out in the long run. Avoiding power struggles. This goes back to the conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. So students will challenge you on, my past teacher did it this way. This assignment is stupid. They'll push your buttons. And then like threats, like tell me to go to the office. These things can all be handled with diffusers. So using just a simple phrase like, okay, that's interesting. That could be possible. Or I'm sorry. Like just saying something simple, short, to the point, and not so worried about them fashion, and continuing with the lesson helps the students see that you have that control, and in the classroom you're not going to allow them to take away from your instruction just by a comment. And then later be sure to go back to that student individually and discuss, because they need to know that there will be consequences for their misbehaviors, but you're not going to take away from your class time for it. So it's important to discuss these things with your students because in the classroom there's going to be misbehavior, but you have to stand your ground and let students know that you will take control and you'll discuss with them like there will be consequences. So it's important to take those steps to avoid making them out of hand and keeping them under control.